So let me ask you, what did you think of the Nick Cage version?
Okay, first of all, I love Nicolas Cage.
Okay.
So I like those movies.
Okay.
I think they were nuts. They're over the top. And I think that worked for the time around it came out, like the early 2000s-ish, when we had things like, Willem Dafoe, Green Goblin, and Alfred Molina, Dr. Octopus. I think for the time that it came out, it was fine. Would it work today? Not so much, probably not.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to agree with that. I remember loving the original Ghost Rider when it came out, and I must have been like pretty young when the first one came out. I must have been like I'm trying to think, probably like 8 or 9 when it came out. It was like mid to late 2000s, so I was in that age range. I remember loving it. I remember loving the effects. I remember loving the backstory. Probably doesn't hold up anymore just because I haven't seen it like probably since the time I was like 10 or 11.
Yeah.
I remember seeing Spirit of Vengeance in theaters and just thinking it was one of the worst things I've ever seen.
Oh, man, I like that one. It was just so crazy.
It just felt like, honestly, just a huge departure from the original.
It kind of was. Even the setting, it was totally different. And like the look of the actual skull and everything. But the one thing I specifically admired about Nicolas Cage for that, because I had seen some like behind the scenes features before I actually saw it, is that they actually put this like paint and CGI markers around his face. All the emoting that you see the skull face do, he was actually doing all those. So he was doing all those jittery motions and acting crazy. And I admire when the actor really gets into the character, even if it's something insane as a flaming skull.
Well, I think to some extent that's pretty common with motion capture. I'm not super familiar with the process,
like
but but just like knowing the basics that I do know about editing, it makes a lot more sense to work with that sort of template than it is to just animate entirely from scratch. So it's not all too shocking, especially when you have someone who's as expressive as Nick Cage. It makes sense to sort of get those expressions,
Yeah, definitely.
It'd be doing a disservice to the actual effects editors on that if they didn't have Nick Cage to work with,
Yeah.
Yeah. So but I do agree. I'd love to see a Ghost Rider TV series. I'm not the biggest fan of like the supernatural elements in like television movies. I feel like there's sort of a dependence on that. I feel like as soon as you throw in the supernatural elements, it sort of throws out reality out of the window. There's no real stakes. But there's always something cool about Ghost Rider, he plays by his own rules. He was like the devil's, I guess, servant turned angel of, I don't know what you'd call him, angel of hell.
Yeah, he was the angel of justice, and then he was brought to hell and corrupted into the spirit of vengeance.
Yeah, obviously a bunch of concepts that I don't believe in, but very cool.
Yeah, by far the best clip of Ghost Rider there ever will be is that old Fantastic Four 90s cartoon where they can't beat Galactus. He's just going on an absolute rampage, and then all of a sudden, here he comes on his motorcycle. Galactus, you will answer for your crimes. And then he does the penance stare. Feel the pain and burning of a billion souls. And then Galactus just falls on the ground in pain, and then he basically says, well, my work here is done. Ghost Rider out. And rides out into the sunset. Good show.